Boss Rush Video Game Book Club is brought to you by, well, you. If you want to learn how to support our family of podcasts, head on over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia to see which tier is right for you. Thanks for your continued support. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Boss Rush Video Game Book Club. I am your host, Corey Deering, and alongside me, as always, is the Mad Pharmacist herself, Stephanie Klimov.
I'm here to talk about a very awesome game that I finally had the stones to play.
Also joining us on this ride is the bear trap himself, Pat Klein, PK Power.
Yep, and like the bear trap, I am everywhere.
Oh my gosh, these things are everywhere. Don't like it. But before we dive into Resident Evil, we actually have a very special guest joining us on this episode. Chris S. from Franchise Festival is joining us. Hello, Chris.
Hello, really grateful to be here.
This is awesome. Glad.
Can I just butt in? And I'm already cutting you off, Corey.
No.
But I was extended an invite to join in on a Resident Evil 4 discussion with Chris and his gang over at Franchise Festival. And I just want to say, like, it was a fantastic time. I'm not just saying because you're here, Chris, but it's the first time I was able to kind of record since. And since, after recording that, I just went to Franchise Festival. I started binging all your Resident Evil stuff, and I'm done with that. Now I need to go back even further. I'm like binging it the opposite way. Now I'm on Zelda. So
cool.
I'm sure,
Shocker.
Zelda.
Come
on. but Resident Evil, like, they do. Anyone else who just also wants to hear more about Resident Evil lore, because we're just going to do Resident Evil 4 Remake, I highly recommend Franchise Festival. I just want to do a little plug there because it's a great podcast. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us. It's really awesome getting to talk to you on a recording, but also interface with you online as well.
Oh yeah, the pleasure's all mine. And for folks who maybe are trying to get up to speed on the Resident Evil franchise, that podcast series is probably a pretty quick way to do it.
Yeah. Speaking of Resident Evil, well, Chris, before that, I just want to say I'm glad you're here too. I really enjoy seeing Franchise Festival pop up in the feeds and across, Twitter and all that stuff. You were brought to my attention actually by Ed, our friend Edward Varnell. So Eddie V, good old Eddie V.
Sure enough, I talked Pokemon starters with him a few months back, I think.
Yeah, that's right. Time. You did our expansion pass episodes with him. Yeah, great. All right, so glad you're here. First off, I know we all have varying levels of history with the franchise itself. I am Resident Evil to me is like, I'm really fascinated with the characters and the lore and the story of Resident Evil because it's so weird and dumb and hilarious at times and super serious at times. And like, I think this game actually proves most of what I actually do like about Resident Evil. But I don't do horror games, so it's very hard for me to like sit there and play these games for 12 to 15 hours at a time. But I have beaten the remake of one on GameCube. I have beaten that. I've beaten 5. I've beaten 6. I've played a little bit of 4, the original 4, and I've played a little bit of 0. 0 is very claustrophobic, which I get is the intent. And it's very weird because you got to switch between the two characters, obviously. But what's everyone's kind of history and thoughts on Resident Evil as a franchise? Chris, I'm going to go to you first since you're our esteemed guest.
Sure, I appreciate that. I played a lot of Resident Evil when I was young, probably younger than a person ideally would have been playing Resident Evil. But I come from my dad and mom are big zombie movie fans, so I got into the Resident Evil series early. But it was really diving in. I got out of sync with it in the 2000s when 5 and 6 came out, and it was really the revival in the mid 2010s that brought me back in, and I played Revelations and Revelations 2, Resident Evil 7, Village, all the remakes, and they're on really quite a hot streak here in the late 2010s. That's probably unmatched earlier on, in spite of the nostalgia I have for some of those early tank control, really awkward entries. Like
Mhm.
you were saying, the remake of the first one.
Yeah. I actually I do want to mention I have played um Revelations 1 and 2, and I actually
Hmm.
really like those cuz they kind of feel more actiony than survival horror.
Hmm.
Uh Plus like obviously I mean the first one's on 3DS and it's like, "Oh, I'm playing on a 4-inch screen. I can just shut it if I get scared." You know.
Hmm.
Now I'm playing it on a 60-inch TV in the dark.
I feel like Revelations had the benefit of being those bite-sized episodes
Mhm.
or even chapters, so you can play it for like an hour, complete like a whole segment, and then find a good closing point.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. Um So, Pat, what about you? Since you're kind of commenting already.
Oh, sorry. Well, I originally got into Resident Evil. I did play the original back on the PlayStation. But the first one I got was Resident Evil 3, but the one that really got me in the series was Code Veronica. I
Mm,
loved Code Veronica. Um, as far as how I feel about the Resident Evil, I thoroughly enjoy it. It is a good franchise overall. I wish Resident Evil kind of had an idea what it wants to be, though.
mhm.
Um, because it seems like once they start like going in a direction, they end it, and then it's like, well, what are we going to try now? Like after Resident Evil 8 or Village, what are they going to do now? Like, are they going to keep it with the first person, or was that just from the perspective of Ethan and they're going to try and go like some other direction now?
I have a theory on what they're gonna do.
Does it involve
Um,
Death Island?
no, I don't know. No, I don't know.
People
I don't
think Death Island might be the turning point of where it's supposed to
know.
branch out somewhere now.
I think
Yeah.
that may be, just given the history of the series, the Death Island may end up. They make those CG movies once every few years,
But
and they're a little bit of fun, but they never really have a big impact on the franchise.
but it's got everybody in it. Everyone.
So did
Yeah,
Resident Evil 6.
No,
yeah.
it didn't have Jill.
It's
Oh
a
It
great
yeah, I
game.
says
didn't.
Jill and everyone.
Hmm. Well, my theory is that I think they're gonna remake Code Veronica at some point soon.
I wish.
I think but the 30th anniversary of Resident Evil 1 is coming up again, and I think they're going to remake 1
Ooh.
again.
I hope so too.
Yeah, I'd
Like,
play it.
as in the style of, 2, 3, and 4. Like, I think they're really gonna do that, and, I think exploring the mansion in that perspective would be so scary and so creepy, and they could, you know, maybe even throw Resident Evil 0 in at the like, as part of the package. I don't know if they would do that. It might be like a 2, 3 situation where, like, they'll do them both and just release them a year apart, right?
Hmm.
Uh, but man, Resident Evil 1, the remake is incredible. Like, I that game is so scary, but it's also really incredible, and the things that they do to play with your expectations and stuff. Ugh.
Yeah, if people are willing to see what the tank controls are all about, or use that alternate control scheme they came up with, that's the
Mhm.
one I usually recommend people start with.
Yeah. Yeah. I really like that they changed that actually
Mhm.
in um the new or in the re-release for Xbox One and PS4. Like, I
Yeah.
think that was a great decision on their part. Uh Stephanie, what about you? What's your history with Resident Evil?
It's relatively short and sweet. I'm pretty sure I mentioned it on one of the Boss Rush podcasts a long time ago. My very first exposure to Resident Evil was when my cousin came over to my house when I was a young kid, and he's like, "Check out this game!" And he pops in Resident Evil Zero on the GameCube. No idea what's going to happen, and then the scene with the leeches on the train just traumatized me. literally traumatized me. I think just it had to have been like the age too. I wasn't ready for that. I was not
Yeah.
prepared for it. He didn't give me a heads up of what it was. And after that, I'm like, I want nothing to do with Resident Evil. Didn't play a game, didn't see a movie. I don't like scary games. However, as I all right, my son comments that he likes scary games. Okay. Um he don't know. But when I met
We'll start them early
Celeste,
with Outlast.
oh yeah. Yeah.
Oh no.
Um Celeste told me that Resident Evil actually had a lot of lore, so I've been like slowly flirting with scary games. I did purchase Resident Evil 2 remake, but I couldn't pull the trigger. So when they announced Resident Evil 4 remake, I'm like, that's my commitment. That's how I'm gonna get in because technically it's the more adventure-y horror. I'm like, okay, gateway drug. At least it'll ease me into it. And I bought it day one, and I committed. And man, I loved the well, I gotta not swear because my son's in the room. Love the crap out of it. So, brief history. I know I have a little bit of imposter syndrome being on a Boss Rush book club about Resident Evil 4, but man, I'm just so happy that I finally got into it.
Yeah, it's I mean, look, Resident Evil 4 is a classic, and I think what Capcom has been doing with Resident Evil, I mean, Capcom just seems like they can't miss now. Like the worst game they've put out in the last probably decade is what Resident Evil 3 remake, and it's still a pretty damn good game
Yeah, I've
from
still
all
played
intents
it
and
like
purposes.
6 times. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's
I
a
mean,
fun 3-hour romp.
I think the problem with Resident Evil 3 is that game just isn't great overall, and the bones they had to work off of, they did what they could out of it.
Yeah.
I love how you
So
spaced reverse. Like we
yeah,
don't even talk about reverse.
nope,
Mhm.
nope, nope. Um,
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
It's like, oh, hey, remember this game came out too and was promoted with Resident Evil 2, but then it was going to be free with Resident Evil 3, and then it
hmm
got delayed because people were just like, "What the hell is this?"
Those
yeah,
multiplayer ones are never good, and they could be, but they just never are.
That's so sad.
Hmm.
It is.
yeah.
There's a
It's
lot of folks who have a lot of affection for Outbreak, which was their first experiment with that back in the 2000s
Mm.
on the
mhm.
PS2. But I was there for it. I rented it, and it's terrible.
And it's terrible.
uh,
Box quote. Um, yeah. So before we get into like the deep dive on Resident Evil 4, I'm this game made me actually want to actually try to sit through the other ones at some point. Uh, I do want to play them because I do think that the series is very interesting. Um, and I really want to show the thing is like I own them all. Like I own them all on Xbox One, like and well Series X, I guess. And I have the ability to play them all. My problem is that I'm just scared of everything. So,
Mhm.
I know, and here this guy is now I want to play them all. The weeks leading up to this, he's like, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't want to do this.
so I did I okay, so general impressions first of all of the remake before we deep dive into it. I actually didn't really care a lot about the remake until we got to probably I want to say past the lake.
Mhm.
After fight, like probably when we get to the castle, I would say is when I really started getting into it, right? Like the village was like, ah man, this I don't like the chainsaw guys. I don't like the
It's a
boar's head
trial
guys.
by fire. I think a lot of people would say that that was probably one of the more challenging parts of the game. And at least in my
Mhm.
opinion, the rest I wouldn't say the rest was easy, but I don't know.
Yeah, but
They throw
like
you in the deep end.
I really ended up like getting invested most of the way through, and like um I was actually really annoyed when the Ashley stuff became like an escort mission, but but like over time I found that she was kind of endearing and kind of fun to have around. Uh and overall like I actually enjoyed most of the experience. I kind of want to go go and replay it a little bit actually now with like some of the unlocks and stuff that makes it easier. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, I wish there was a bear trap toggle that I could like turn them off. But that was probably honestly that was probably the most annoying part of the game is that these
Or
bear
like
traps are just
The
everywhere,
Last of Us,
everywhere.
well, that was for moving targets, but, like, in some games, you have, like, a sensory thing where you can listen or whatever, and it'll outline traps or enemies. That would be cool, but
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would
Eagle
make it too
vision.
easy. Maybe that's an easy mode.
Good, make it easy.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I'm all for it.
You're not a real gamer. That's what the
That's fine.
internet
I
tells
play.
you.
Look, I'm gonna admit it right now. I played it on the easiest mode you could possibly put it on. So, uh, but overall impressions, Stephanie, I'm going your way first.
Sure, I'll make it quick and wicked. I loved it after I got over the initial village part, like the initial timed sequence before everyone went to the church to play bingo. Um, it
Hmm.
it was so
Where's
difficult for
everybody
me.
going to play bingo?
And I was getting used to the controls, right? Like, I'm used to games where there's a dodge button, and compared to the games that I played, I'm not saying that the game has a fault in it, but compared to what I've been playing, he was like, I felt like Leon was just like, "Do, do, 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 do," like, lumbering along, like, "Go, go, go, dodge, roll,
Mm-hmm.
what's going on?" After dying, like, 5 times, I got the hang of the controls, and I realized I just have to survive and wait it out, so I kind of, got familiar with it, and once that was over, loved it. The graphics were great. The gameplay was fantastic. I love finding the notes. I know I didn't play the original, but I read up on the differences. I loved having Louise as a partner for a little while, and
Hmm.
I like how Capcom kind of owned the cheesy parts of it too, and I think that is what helped the creepy parts.
Hmm.
So that's my overall impressions. I think it was a very well done remake, and it just further convinces me to suck it up and play RE2 remake.
Yeah, I think the balance between the horror and the cheese it really works to its benefit, especially as you get deeper into the game because there's some pretty scary parts in that, like especially when you get to the castle and you're playing as Ashley and you can't really defend yourself and like the
Oh.
knights are chasing you, right? Like
Yes.
that kind of stuff is like really you feel defenseless, right? But that like when you're playing as Leon and you like shoot the chainsaw guy with the bag on his head, right, with the shotgun, and then the little prompt that says press X to melee or whatever, and you roundhouse kick him down to the ground, and then you put two more shotgun shells into his face. Like it's hilarious, and like
Mm-hmm.
I wrote down some one liners in my notes here from like
Perfect.
the bingo line. Where's everyone going? Bingo, and like that line is so
Classic.
good, so good. I gotta find some. I should have put all the one liners in one space. I wrote them. So I went. My notes are like in chronological order as I played the game because I didn't want to miss anything.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but there's some pretty good lines in this. We'll talk about them in a little bit. Pat, overall impressions of the Resident Evil 4 remake.
All right. Well, I thought the remake was well done. I really enjoyed the fact that they put more depth to the characters. Even like originally, in my opinion, Sadler was probably one of the weakest Resident Evil bosses in existence. But now, with him having more of that mind control um, that he featured prominently throughout this remake, that puts him up at a higher level, in my opinion. Like, this guy could have, in theory, taken over the world if he had a chance. Um, so yeah, it was overall a good game. It's just Resident Evil 4 is probably my least favorite of the series,
Hmm.
but it was definitely a good attempt.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Chris?
The original Resident Evil 4 is my favorite Resident Evil game. It's neck and neck with the Resident Evil 2 remake. And I was going into this remake with a lot of trepidation. They just haven't made a game this long in quite a long time. I think the last time they made a game this long was maybe Resident Evil 6, and that was a disaster. So I was pretty nervous going into this, and by golly, it's now my favorite Resident Evil game. They so stuck the landing on succeeding at recapturing everything that made Resident Evil 4 special while improving the characters and getting rid of the QuickTime events. So
Mm.
all in all, I couldn't have been more impressed.
Yeah, so I actually like a couple well, not a couple months ago. I want to say probably, I don't know, late last year, all the Resident Evil games were on sale on Switch, and I ended up getting Resident Evil 4 because it was $8. And I play. So the reason why I put it down actually is I wanted to play it because I knew we were going to do something with the remake eventually, whether it was a segment on the Boss podcast or, we were kind of pitching spoiler casts at the time, and obviously now it's video game book club, but the reason why I put it down is like there's no way to switch to a modern control scheme. It's
Mm-hmm.
there's no camera. Like the left stick does everything. It aims, it moves the camera, and like as somebody who plays a lot of games like Destiny and a little bit of Halo and traditional third person action games, like not having that camera stick really hinders the experience a little bit for me. And so I put it down and I waited for this to finally dive in, and I think this game is one of the environmentally at least is one of the prettiest games I think I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
Especially I don't know what you guys are playing on. I'm playing on Xbox Series X, and I actually played most of the game in quality with ray tracing turned on, and was consistently getting between probably 45 and not 60 frames a second, but probably like 40 to 50 frames a second. And I played a majority of the game that way, and like the reflections off the water, the reflections of the fire, and like the way the candles flickered in like the bedrooms and the houses and stuff, and the torches, like the way this, like the environment and the lighting works in this game was one of the best things I think I've seen in games in a long time. uh Now, granted, the character models, they're good, right? But I mean, this game is also on PS4 and Xbox One, so like I knew they had to make some whatever, but it still looks pretty pretty damn good.
Yeah, the
Um,
engine that Capcom has been using for all of these games since 7, the RE engine, which
yeah,
does not stand for Resident Evil inexplicably. I
no,
think it's like Reach for the Moon engine or something. But it is a thing of like staggering elegance because it's the exact same engine that powers Monster Hunter Rise on the Switch.
Mm.
Like
hmm
it scales up and down so well,
hmm
and it's really cool to see it still getting a lot of use in the new generation. Still
yeah,
looks great.
yeah. Um, I it makes me excited for what they can do when they're not. I don't want to say hindered by last generation, but really able to move forward without having to adjust the engine for those consoles, right? Like
Mhm.
imagine what Resident Evil 9 might look like, or the next Monster Hunter, or it's really gonna it's really gonna be something incredible.
Mhm.
Give me the
So
Phoenix Wright series on the
mm,
RE engine.
8K
Yeah.
Phoenix, right? That pointy hair. It's so pointy.
Look at it. The shine from the ray trace.
um all right, so let's hit the opening of the game here. Uh you kind of they kind of set it up a little bit with a small scene of a girl getting sacrificed. Uh you see the blood running down the stone table, and then it cuts to Leon riding with these two cops, right? And I think this opening scene is uh pretty fun. Leon's pretty snarky with these cops. And the cops are they I think the cops kind of know what's going on, but they don't, you know what I mean? They're like, well, people get lost all the time out here, and it's like, well, find them. What are you doing? You're the worst cops. uh I think the music in this scene is pretty awesome too. Like
Spanish
the
guitar.
Spanish, yeah, the Spanish guitar is really good, and uh it's just really good. And obviously, like the one cop gets out to go, pee and gets kidnapped, and the other cop gets taken later. But like,
Lesson learned: never go pee in the woods in an area that you're not entirely sure about your safety.
Mhm.
yeah,
That is an action trope through and through. Like you see it in Jurassic Park: The Lost World when the guy goes and takes a piss and then gets eaten up by the little dinosaurs, the
Oh
little
yeah.
ones,
yeah,
Mm.
the tiny ones that bite his dick.
Oh
Oh.
yeah.
I don't
The
remember if they
compies.
do that, but they probably would have.
yeah,
But yeah, no, it's horror trope 101. You don't go deep into the woods to go take a piss. You just get out of the car, turn your back, and just let it go.
yeah.
They just got done talking about how people go disappearing from the woods.
Hmm
Yeah. First
Get
of
it
all,
together, guys.
why don't you just go to the back of the car and let it out? Why do you have to go
Mhm.
deep, like
It's like
100
you're
feet
all
from the?
dudes. Come on. If you ever go camping with a bunch of dudes, we literally just walk out the tent and take a piss behind it.
Yeah,
And
you ain't
you
got
know,
nothing, nobody's seen before.
yeah.
um, and then the village scene, right? Like, this is a lot of people like really think that this is an iconic opening where you kind of, uh, well, first you walk into the cabin, and this is where it's kind of different from. This is the first kind of major thing that's different from the original, right? Where Leon kind of, I think you actually kill the guy
Mhm.
in the first one right away. And in this one, Leon actually tries to talk to him in Spanish or whatever, and then ends
Yeah,
up just kind of ignoring him because he doesn't really know what's going on.
it's a good
Uh,
change. Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's
do like that just from a beginner standpoint that it kind of very gently teaches you kind of or shows you what's going to happen in a much smaller scale. So it's almost like the
Mhm.
mini
mhm,
tutorial.
yeah,
Yeah.
And it also introduced one of the newer type of like bad guys with the broken neck, but
Oh,
it's where the
yeah,
parasite
Yeah,
is
true.
taking effect of the body, but it
Mhm.
hasn't emerged yet.
mm-hmm.
Mhm.
yeah,
That's correct.
y- yeah.
Hmm
So yeah, it's crazy. Like when you kind of go walk around this house and walk around the corner and the he's coming down the stairs, right? That was like the first kind of, because I wasn't expecting him to do that, so I kind of was like, I ran downstairs to do whatever, and then I ran back to the stairs, and he was like there in the stairwell,
Mhm.
and it was like I got caught in the thing. I was like, oh my god,
Yeah, great
knife,
scare.
yeah. Oh man, I wish I would have known that was coming, because that was the first time I was like, oh my god. There's a lot
Yeah,
of jump scares.
there's parts that I like about how they changed the intro. I think adding some of that stuff to the house, making Leon more sympathetic, making it clear that the creatures that you're up against are monsters and not just villagers. Because in
Yeah.
the original, they don't do anything explicitly monstrous up front. But the trade off is that in the original, it's a little less cinematic, and so all of those fun actions that Leon pulls, it forces the player to do. So
hmm
it puts you in kind of a more empowering situation up front. Whereas in the new one, it takes a little bit of that out of your hands, and I think it may lessen the impact of the village section a little bit.
hmm
But it's probably good on balance for making the story make sense.
Yeah. Yeah, so after the cabin, we kind of walk into the village, and this is uh kind of the grand opening to Resident Evil 4, right? Where you're kind of evading the villagers. If you're smart enough, you find the shotgun in the house, and then you climb up on the roof, and then you jump off and do all the cool Leon S. Kennedy things, right? I do want to say that I did get myself stuck in a corner, and I was finding myself like using the handgun to like take out a lot of
Hmm.
the villagers as they were coming through, and then they're back in the kind of, there's like this corner over by the windmill that you can't get to the windmill, but you get stuck in this, but behind this house and
Hmm.
a fence, and there's an alleyway underneath one of the houses, and I see these villagers coming through here, and I see villagers coming from me at this way, and then I hear the chainsaw going off, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I am so effed right now. And I'm like hunkering down. I'm like, don't die, just don't die, just don't die, because I knew the bell was coming at some point. I was like, just don't die. And I ran out of handgun bullets, and then
Yeah.
so I started using the knife, which, by the way, did not know the knives were breakable in this game at this point. because in
Yeah,
Resident Evil, the original, the knife does not break, and so uh, I'm sitting here like swiping these knives, and my knife breaks, and I'm like, I'm out of everything, and I just start sprinting, and as soon as I round the corner, the chainsaw guy's there, and I thought I was done, and the bell went off as soon as
Wow.
I was
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, I literally dodged a bullet here,
that's
uh,
perfect.
Dodge a
and
chainsaw, you mean?
yeah,
Mm.
literally dodged a chainsaw, and then obviously the iconic one liner, the bingo one liner, he hits here. So that opening
You're
scene,
cutting it
very
close,
Mhm.
ha,
Hmm.
ha,
right to the buzz.
mm,
Ah.
mm, mm. Uh, yeah, and so like you get this is the right after the scene is where you kind of get your first taste of Hadigan, the roost, as you know it. So it's what really threw me off at this part was like they literally use their names and then they use their code names. And he's
Mm.
like, I'm looking for the president's daughter, Baby Eagle. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Very silly.
I was like,
why?
wait a minute.
Just use one or the other. Like, there's no point in using both, right? Like, it's very obvious that like if you're searching for the president's daughter, she's going to be called Baby Eagle, right? Like, it just as an American, like, okay, if you're listening to this and you don't know the significance of eagles, eagles are like bald eagles are like America's America, whatever.
What?
But
Mhm.
I don't know.
Usually carrying an automatic rifle in one hand and
Yeah,
I don't
mm,
know, a
yeah,
cigarette in the other.
It's like how
mm,
the child of the Canadian Prime Minister is baby maple syrup. You
yeah,
know,
exactly. Yeah,
just
Yeah.
common,
Is
Yeah.
that
yeah,
true?
common knowledge.
yeah. Or yeah, I don't know where I was going to go with that. So basically, what we're going to do from here is we're going to kind of talk about each section individually, the village and the castle, and then the end with the island, and kind of talk about the story beats and the enemies and stuff from each section, the characters that we kind of meet in each section. And so yeah, I actually didn't like playing through the village area all that much. Like I said kind of at the beginning, felt like I felt like the village is kind of the most boring part of the game, and like the bear traps are everywhere. And I know we keep making that. Also, I ran into a trip mine at one point and
Ah
killed
ha
myself
ha ha.
uh, because I was running from one of the neck guys, and I
Yep,
was trying to find some ammo, and didn't realize that it was there.
You didn't hear
that's
the
how they get
beeping?
you.
Mm-hmm.
I did not hear the beeping. I was too
I'll
busy.
admit, I had a lot of fun getting people, not people, the things, whatever you want to call it, to run into the tripwire. I'm like, haha,
Hmm.
you
Mhm.
fools.
Did
Yeah.
anybody ever get one of the Ganados, the enemy villagers, stuck in a bear trap?
I
Yes,
did, yeah.
Makes you feel like a
that's
champ.
also fun.
Mhm.
Yeah.
When you walk around the bear trap because you finally see one on the ground, and then you turn around to shoot them, and they get stuck in
Hmm.
it. Yeah.
That's what they
And
get.
then you start walking and you hit another bear trap.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep.
Comes for us all.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So the first, I do want to hit on the first kind of major new enemy to this game, which is the bullhead
The brute.
characters with the
Yeah, the
yeah.
brute.
Uh,
Yeah.
is that what they're called? The brutes? I don't.
Yeah, with
I
a
just
big ass hammer. Holy
Hmm.
crap.
yeah.
Super
I
Um.
scary.
actually found them more terrifying personally than the chainsaw guy. I don't know why. You'd think the chainsaw with the bag head would be more creepy, but
Have you seen Saw?
mm,
only the first one.
Okay, well that's still good enough to, warrant your fear of pig-headed people.
Okay, yeah. So maybe,
mm.
yeah, maybe that's where it stems from. I don't know, but they've got range and their attacks are they deal a lot of damage.
Yeah, they're pretty yeah, that hammer. By the way though, when you're climbing up the ladder in the barn, like you jump down and then you barge through the door and you climb up the ladder and you wait for them to come up and you're kind of shooting them with your handgun. Then you switch to the shotgun when they get to the top and then they fall back off the ledge. Oh,
Hmm.
so satisfying.
It is.
So satisfying.
Yeah,
Hmm.
this game definitely encourages you to try and utilize the environment or wherever
Hmm.
you are because of
Mhm.
the sense of resource management. I
Mhm.
played in the normal mode, so to speak, quote unquote. I think I don't think I ever truly ran out of ammo, but I think they structure it in a sense that you're always very close.
Yep.
And I'm also a
Mhm.
bad shot, so I probably are more on the lean side. But still, like that, so it was always top of mind. Like, how can I put myself in an advantageous situation because I'm like a second away from having nothing.
Mhm.
Yeah, my one beef with this game maybe is, kind of my own personal issue, which is that I am also a really bad shot.
Hmm.
And once you bump it up to hardcore difficulty, the ammo gets so scarce and there's no auto aim assistance that
Hmm.
I don't know. I think I'm just basically prohibited from getting through the hardcore mode, unless I play maybe with like a mouse and keyboard or something. But using that joystick, I'll shoot to the left of a Ganato's head, to the right, again over the left, maybe once above them, and then finally hit them.
I
Yeah.
feel like
It's
they expect you to
every
have the
enemy takes
infinite
three
launcher
times.
by that point, and
Maybe,
then
yeah,
that way you don't have to worry about the auto aim. Everything just blows up.
that would be helpful. Yeah, I
Hmm.
gotta get that.
Yeah, I did not have that. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um, so yeah, we meet them, and then this is also in this area is kind of where we uh meet Louise for the first time.
Mhm.
And this was also another kind of fun change I think that people had fun with, where
Hmm.
you walk down the stairs and there's the cabinet that in the original game he's in the cabinet. And I think people I wonder how many people tried to open the cabinet first and didn't see the body bag to the right. Yeah.
At least
Uh
one of us did.
yeah, I did. So I didn't know that. I actually listened to watched a comparison video uh this weekend to see like all the changes, because I obviously, you know, didn't really play the original that much. But that was one of the things that everybody was like, "Oh, that's funny, huh?" And then, you find him in the body bag, and Mendez comes up behind you and kidnaps you both. So that's fun. What a creepy what a creepy list of like uh enemies here. Like I
Hmm.
think like Mendez, and obviously later we'll talk about Ramon and
Oh,
and Sadler obviously last. The only character that wasn't super scary but felt more like along the lines of someone that would appear in Resident Evil 5 and 6 was Crowder.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Krauser?
Leon's old army
Krauser.
buddy.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
What I say,
Krauser.
Crowder, Krauser. Yeah.
Yep.
Um yeah,
Yeah.
oh, man, crazy. But Mendez was like kind of scary. Like he's very imposing. He's very big. The hat is scary. Like the hat makes him
Bicolored
look
eyes.
scarier. Yeah. And then even later when you're kind of when you escape and you go into that house to look for some things, and
Mhm.
you go into the bedroom. I think you're looking for the key for the gate to get out
Mhm.
the other side, right? And uh you go to exit the room and he walks in and just like straight up picks you up and oh, man.
Mhm.
Also, I
I
guess
kept
we should probably touch
fighting.
on that he injected you with the thing,
The
the
Oh
Plagas.
virus.
yeah,
The
It's
Los
not a
Yeah,
Plagas.
virus.
no,
yeah, the parasites.
the plagus. Sorry.
Hmm.
Parasite.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, so
Ooh.
that was that. He's just a scary dude, and
Hmm.
then obviously later when you fight him, he gets even scarier.
Well, when
So.
you're in the house, I think, because this is the part that parts that I really enjoy is finding all the little notes,
Hmm.
journal entries and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, he is, Mendez was the former like village chief and priest or something like that. So I mean, I still didn't feel bad obliterating him during the boss battle, but it's just like a sad story. Like, this used to be like just a village minding its business, and we'll learn more about it, but they met a terrible fate, so to speak.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mendez was a charismatic leader
Yeah.
who was trying to take care of the people of the village, and ironically, that's how they ended up all getting infected.
Hmm.
Yeah. Nice little touch that wasn't in the original. In the original, he was just some giant guy in charge of a village of crazy people.
Yeah,
Oh,
not a
so that
single bit of
wasn't
plot.
present in the original?
No, they gave him more of a human touch with those back lures.
Hmm.
Same. Perfect.
Nice. I didn't know that.
No,
I
they didn't say anything about what the village was. Like how they explained in this one, it was because of the ironworks, kind of screwed the whole thing over. And then that allowed Sadler to bring in his cultists to first influence Ramon, and then Ramon pushing it on to the villagers.
I only found out recently that there actually was more backstory on the village in the original via supplementary content that was exclusive to Japanese audiences. There's a whole there's like a whole kind of mini audio drama on what happened to like all of the village's children and all of that sort of
Oh,
thing, and but that just wasn't a part of the game itself, so it's news to me.
wow.
hmm, interesting.
Yeah, they rolled a lot of that into the plot for the remake.
Can I
Um,
add,
I
add a
like when they do that.
couple things about the village? So one
Yes.
thing I learned because it's early in the game that you could kind of be stealthy, so to speak. Like you have stealth, but it's not really the best like executed stealth. I tried my best. Like I seriously, I tried The Last of Us it for the most part and it never worked. I got attacked by one of those dang pigs. I was trying to sneak up on someone and a pig just plowed me over. I'm like, what the heck?
Mm-hmm.
Anyone get attacked by a
uh,
pig?
Yep.
I did not. I did
Nope.
not. Uh,
Those barnyard animals are a menace.
yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of animals, anybody save the wolf from the bear
Yes.
Yeah.
trap? Great.
That poor little baby.
I
Mm-hmm.
know.
And we saved him during the big fight.
Darn
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he saved us.
He
Yeah.
did. Good dog. Good dog. Let's see. Where do we want to go next? So I think the next kind of uh thing would be, I guess, the boat dock, right?
Well,
And, and like
was that
what were
like
you gonna say?
after we defeat Mendez? Do we want to talk about the
No,
boss battle or no?
we haven't got. Uh, Corey's right. The next part would be kind of the boat.
Mhm.
Was where we went after the house.
Yeah, because I
Oh,
think the Mendes fight is after that when
Mm-hmm.
you kind of cross the river, right?
Yeah, that's the
oh, the
climax to
river.
the
Okay,
very
I
beginning.
was, I was thinking. Okay, never mind.
Yeah.
Ignore
Mhm.
me.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we, I mean, we didn't touch on the merchant yet either, though. Do we want
I
to talk
Oh
about him, or do we want to
yeah,
save him for later?
Yes, I love him. Every
he
time I saw
appears
his purple
here.
flame, I just
Mhm.
was like, it's like Pavlov's dog. I'm like, I'm safe. Um,
And that
I'm
music,
gonna
that
use a
peaceful
Leon
music.
quote. I'm gonna use a Leon quote. In my opinion of the merchant in this game, you talk too much.
mm, gun rhymes with fun. Am I right? Um,
Also, if you don't buy anything, he makes fun of you.
yeah.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I
No,
noticed, which
I liked him. I like the add-on missions, like shooting the blue pendants and
Yes.
getting rid of the
Mhm.
rats. Like I really enjoyed that. Um, yeah, I'll stop there. I wasn't sure if we want to get into like upgrading weapons and stuff with the merchant or how far with the merchant we want to go.
Yeah, I mean, what did you guys do? Well, how did you guys upgrade your stuff first? Like, I bought the big case because I didn't want
Hmm.
to run out of space.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of figured that I wasn't going to be playing this game more than once, so I got the case upgrade, and then I just started upgrading my handgun and my shotgun, like
Hmm.
really just going in to upgrading it. Also, I don't know if you guys are are maniacs and organize your inventory by yourselves, but I gotta say the auto kind of correction button very much appreciated.
You're breaking my heart
Yep.
here. You auto organize that inventory.
Sure did.
You skipped the key mini game of Resident Evil 4, keeping all of
Mhm.
those little doodads in a very precise order.
Yeah, I had a
Look,
lot of fun doing that.
there's a Switch game that's strictly suitcase
Hmm.
organization now.
Oh, I
So,
think I
Yeah,
know what you're
directly
talking about.
influenced by this. Yeah.
oh man, who decided to make a game out of that? You guys are nuts. But yes, the Y button was my friend on Xbox, and every every time I picked something up, I'd go into my inventory and just hit Y to make sure it
Hmm.
was correct.
Yeah, it's some strange like ecstasy of order brain drug for me. Like making that inventory just right to squeeze in one more green herb or one more weapon modification is oddly appealing. And, I think it fulfills the role of taking you out of the spooky section for a while. Like, it's time to just hang out and organize my inventory while the nice music plays.
You took the
Yeah.
words right out of my mouth, Chris. I'm like, you know what? Whenever I needed a break, I go in, I just because I did try to auto organize and it worked, so to speak. But my brain's like, I don't like how shotgun shells here, pistol here. No,
Mm-hmm.
must play Tetris. And then like I can go back and get the crap scared out of me again. So
Mm-hmm.
same here.
Yeah, it's one of my criticisms of Resident Evil 5 and 6 that the inventory has to be managed while actions are going on in that.
Mm.
And I really like that peaceful interval to lower the tension before it ratchets back up.
Have any of you guys seen the Carbot animations cartoon with Resident Evil?
No.
They're the people
No.
that's done like a whole bunch of Elden Ring like little cartoon skits, but it's funny that you mentioned that because they make fun of that in the cartoon. Like there's a
Mm-hmm.
moment where Leon opens up his case and you just see the chainsaw guy just like just kind of waiting for Leon to finish up
Mm-hmm.
going through
That's
his case
awesome.
before he closes
Love
it.
it.
Well, I always wondered, I'm like, where is Leon keeping the suitcase anyway? But um as far as weapons are concerned, I didn't want to overthink it, but I prioritized upgrading my shotgun. Shotgun's hands down my favorite weapon. I got what I needed for the rifle. And then I honestly I'm looking at the handgun here. I think I got the Punisher, but like I didn't like keep on swapping out like the Red 9 and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. Like I know magnums are powerful, but it's like a different kind of ammo. So, and I tried what's that thing that you can like pin down enemies and you can
Oh, the
attach
The
bolt
rifle?
Bolt.
thrower. Yeah,
Yeah,
bolt thrower.
I tried that, and maybe because I'm a bad shot, it did not work best for me. So I ended up reselling it.
Same.
So I just ended up just souping up my shotgun, decently souping up my OG rifle, and then maybe upgrading one handgun higher, and then that's kind of it.
I upgraded the submachine gun quite a bit, which
Ooh,
is
okay.
not a smart way to go in Resident Evil generally, but the final upgrade for it turns the whatever it is, the damage output into 1.5 rather than 1. And at that point, it becomes a really useful item for just kind of knocking enemies over. So you
Ooh.
can get past them or jab them with the knife. So I really stuck to that, a little bit of shotgun upgrade, and then there's a weapon modification for one of the pistols that turns it into, I guess, kind of an automatic fire pistol, which chews through ammo really fast, but you get
Mhm.
so much ammo for the handgun
Mm-hmm.
that the handgun and the TMP, the submachine gun, were my preferences.
Nice.
Yeah, that's what I did with the handgun. I upgraded it pretty much all the way, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I feel like the handgun has the most utility also.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and the shotgun, I was just like, I need to blast these bigger, especially like when you get the guys with shields and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, some of the other enemies that are kind of heavily armored. It really helps to have your shotgun at the ready. Uh, I tried the bolt. What's it called? The bolt.
Bolt thrower.
Bolt
Bolt
thrower.
thrower. Yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
I tried it a little bit. I found myself being really frustrated after trying to use it just because I'm not good enough with it. I think.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so, uh, but yeah, I going back to the merchant and upgrades and stuff. I think the merchant is awesome, and like it's funny because
Mm-hmm.
uh I play a lot of Destiny, and one of the characters in Destiny it's Zur, and he looks just like the merchant from Resident Evil. And they've come out and kind of
Oh.
said as much as like, yeah, we kind of really enjoyed playing Resident Evil 4, and we wanted to have a character. And it's funny because Zur is the merchant in Destiny, the weekend merchant who
Mm-hmm.
sells you things, and so it was kind of funny to see him and be like, oh, well, that's actually like the character that he's based off of. So it's awesome. All right, back to anybody have anything else to say about the village before we move on to the I mean, do we want we should probably talk about the water monster, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right. In the
Del
village, as far as
Lago.
bosses, yeah, we get the Del Lago as well as the Gigante. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, The river creature Del Lago, I really like. They would revisit this kind of similarly in Village, but with a talking variant of it that really lowered the tension.
Oh,
But in this one, yeah,
Mhm.
that river monster, it's like a big, ugly, angry salamander that pulls Leon's boat around, and you have to harpoon it as it goes. Just top
How many
notch.
harpoons does Leon have, by the way? That boat just is
Mhm.
just like infinite harpoons. You just, dragging
I
He
around a
just
bag of
spits them up.
harpoons.
It's like that spike enemy from Mario, where it kind of
Yeah.
kicks out a little spiked ball. That's Leon with
Yeah.
harpoons.
So
Yeah.
where does the harpoon come from? The butt?
Just
You
right
don't
down
want
here
the
in the
answer to that
gullet, you
question.
know.
yeah. I'll
Just whip
admit,
it out.
I had some reservations about this boss because any type of water-based fighting boss, I don't know, I have a fear of. I'm like trying to steer a
Same.
boat and shoot, but it actually ended up being kind of fun. I think I only died once or twice, which for me is not a lot. And it was actually it was actually fun.
Mm. Gotta say, those Assassin's Creed Black Flag and Rogue
Hmm.
prepared me for this boss fight.
Hmm.
With the whole aiming the harpoon,
Yeah.
leading it so that, because it's, if you try to aim where you're wanting to hit, you're gonna miss it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was prepared.
Also, the cool part when you like he's the boss is coming right at you with its mouth open, and like
Hmm.
you have to like jump in its mouth and stab its little wiggly creature that's inside of his mouth.
That only
It's
happened to me once. I don't know how you trigger that action to happen. The only time that Leon ever got in the creature's mouth, I don't know. I had died a bunch of times, and then it happened once, but the creature ate him. So I
mm.
never got to see. I still haven't seen. I played through the game 3 times, and I still haven't seen what happens. You stab a parasite in there.
Yeah, it's kind of reminiscent of like the wiggly thing on the giant, but it's much smaller.
Oh, okay,
Um,
cool, cool.
uh, If you want to be a Patreon producer, head on over to patreon.com/bossrushmedia and find out which tier is right for you. Our Patreon producers at the $5 tier or higher for this month are Adriel Munger, Austin Campbell, Celeste Roberts, Christian S., Sana Dierig, Francisco Santillan, and Rebecca Jewell. Thank you for your continued support. So, yeah, I thought that fight was kind of fun. Definitely changed things up, right? And I like it. Just really bothered me how many harpoons there were. I know this is a video game and this is all dumb, and we're in a village with zombies that are walking around farming and chainsawing each other's faces off. But like,
Mhm.
I don't know, for some reason the harpoon thing, like, really, I'm just like, I was really stuck on the harpoon thing.
That was the line.
Yeah, that was so it wasn't like when Mendez splits in half and starts flying around this burning slaughterhouse. It was the part that makes sense.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
I remember
uh,
that freaked the heck out of me in the original one when he first split in half, because you just barely alive as is, and then all of a sudden he's got a second form. It's
Hmm.
like,
yeah,
what the hell?
Yeah, so
yeah,
cool. It's straight out of The Thing. I feel like it really kind of uses
Yeah.
The Thing as
Hmm.
the visual
Hmm.
signifier.
yeah. Uh, so I guess we could talk about the slaughterhouse fight for a minute. What was your guys' strategy? I just kind of stayed on the top row and hoped he didn't hit me with the flaming 2x4s. Uh, but I thought that part was like, so at first I thought like when he split in half, I thought the fight was over for a hot second. I'm like,
Mhm.
all right, great, that's over. And then obviously he's flying in the back of the room, hurling flaming, giant toothpicks at you. But I actually thought that fight was pretty cool, especially when he picks up the exploding barrels. Like it really felt like a good, solid, fun, old school boss fight. Which
Mhm.
I get,
Mhm.
it's this boss fight's 20 something years old at this point, but like I liked it. I was like, great, red barrel, shoot it. He's gonna die because you're exploding a barrel in his face. Great. I love all the visual cues. I something we didn't really talk about either was like everything that's marked with yellow can be broken or busted
Yeah, I love it.
or yeah. I'm like, that's great. That means I don't have to waste my time breaking every single box in this room. I look for the yellow. and I'll break it, pick up some coins or some ammo or a green herb or whatever, and just be on my way. Great. This window can be broken. Great. This ladder can be climbed. I loved it. I loved it. And usually that stuff kind of like, especially in a game, something like Horizon, it kind of like throws you out of the experience because like you're supposed to be in this world that hasn't been lived in, but yet every single thing you can climb is marked with like a white or a
Mhm.
yellow rope or something. But this, it really kept me moving forward, I think, instead of putzing around in a room with nothing in it. So,
Yeah, I like anything that kind of leans into the artificiality of the medium.
hmm
And that's going to differ from player to player, but being immersed generally is not a priority of mine. It is
hmm
for a lot of folks, and that's legit. But so given that the space is already pretty artificial, like I'm not going to be able to pick up a fork
hmm
in Resident Evil 4. I'm not going to be able to use the space as I would in real life. Them enhancing the artificiality in a user friendly way, I really appreciated.
Hmm.
hmm
Keeps you moving forward, like you said.
hmm
Agree. And I had a similar strategy, Corey, where I just kind of booked it to the second floor for the most part. And by then, I finally kind of got used to, I don't know if you really parry a lot in that fight, but, evade. That was my best
Hmm.
friend. And then
hmm
just blasting with my shotgun when I can. I would say, and we'll talk about the other bosses later. Mendez might be one of my top boss fights for this game. He was just a lot of fun.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, it was definitely the most engaging, I think. It like, well, I guess Ramon was pretty engaging too, but I feel like the simplicity of the fight mixed with like how engaging it was made it definitely one of the better boss fights in the game for sure, if not
Mhm.
the best. Uh, Unlike the Krauser fight, which we'll talk about later. Why do I keep calling him Crowder? I don't.
I don't know. And when you say
Uh,
Crowder, I think
Hmm.
of Chowder. So I don't know
I
where we're
know I
going
do
with
too.
this.
I don't either. Uh, so after you fight, you have Ashley. We haven't really talked about Ashley at all yet.
Mm.
We like to ignore Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of did, and I don't know if that was a good or a bad decision, but uh, I found her not to be as annoying as I thought she was going to be because like when you first have her, like it turns into an escort mission, and I like rolled my eyes like not. I know this game is pretty much an escort mission, but this is ridiculous. And then like the graveyard, right, where you kind of have to run, but they're chasing you through the graveyard. And then the fact that like you can hit Ashley with your weapons like didn't make it any easier. And it's like, oh my gosh, come on, can we just let's just get through this. And then she get
Ashley
uh,
always ran into my bullets.
yeah,
Always.
her AI
And
is
it
pretty
was.
bad.
Hmm.
Um, it kind of reminded me of like the videos you see of like in the Last of Us when you see Ellie running front when you're trying to be stealthy and Ellie's just running all the way around the stage like blah. But
But
Yeah,
see,
I must have gotten pretty lucky. I didn't run into Ashley like stumbling into the path of things too often. She would sometimes get mobbed by enemies, and I'd have to go help her out.
mm,
But I this is strange. This is a big difference from the original for me. But I liked Ashley a lot in the remake. Um, she kind of comes and goes through the back half of the game, right? Sometimes she's there, sometimes she's, off getting up to who knows what. But the times when she wasn't with Leon, I kept hoping that they would get back together soon. Like I felt more exposed as Leon by himself
hmm
than when he had Ashley along, which I thought
hmm
was kind of ran counter to the game design, right? Like she's supposed to be an extra source of danger in some ways because it's an escort mission. But I thought what she provided in like flavor overcame that.
Yeah,
hmm
as I said before, I haven't played the original, but I did watch a Let's Play, and so dealing with Ashley was kind of one of my biggest reservations about this game. I hate escort missions. I just am terrible at them. Um, but I actually got used to the mechanics for her relatively quickly, like the command to have her stay close to you versus to back off a little bit. I felt like that helped me a lot.
hmm
Um, and I'm by no means good at this game at all, but I think I've only had issues with her either being killed or whatever more towards the end that we can talk about. But at least in the beginning, I'm like, this isn't that bad. It's not terrible. And also, when we get to it later, there's just a lot less less like sexist jokes and like inappropriate stuff. Like it was actually more tolerable, especially as a female playing the game. Like, all right, it's cool.
No,
I
they
was
gave Ashley a much better personality in this game.
Yeah.
Before she really was dumb blonde,
Mm.
yeah.
and and Leon, and like
Whoa.
just shut up.
Leon's
Like,
Kind of what?
relationship with Hunnigan was much improved in the same way, Stephanie, because
mhm.
Leon is kind of a creep in the original towards Hunnigan, and that
Yeah.
is stripped out of this almost entirely to the game's benefit.
I appreciated
Mhm.
the minimizing of the creep factor.
Yeah, I was almost rooting for Leon and Ashley at the end of the game. I'm like, just do something already. Like, there's so much like obvious like flirtation there, and just back and forth, and the jokes, and like there's a point where like Leon says something. I forget what he said, but she's like, "Is that a compliment?" And he's like, "You can take it however you want." And I'm like, "Whoa, whoa."
I don't know if this happened in our conversation, Chris, when we were on your podcast, but I think doesn't isn't Ashley like made to appear at least a bit older in this remake as well, so it's
Yes,
also
yeah,
less
that's another
creepy.
big improvement. Ashley, I don't remember what age she's supposed to be in the original, but she definitely is coded as younger in her kind of her demeanor and language in the original, as opposed to this one where she's coded as kind of almost Leon's contemporary,
Hmm.
Yeah, that
which
helps.
also makes that work. Yeah,
Yeah,
Leon's heart beats only for Ada, though.
Yes, it does, and I love it. Which
yeah,
she does appear.
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah. There's like this like angry like sexual tension between them through like the every time they meet, and you can feel it. And I'm not just saying because she's wearing a skin tight red bodysuit. I'm saying like you can feel their
Yes, it's
tension.
palpable.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a
Uh
good evolution on the dynamic that they got going between the two of them in the Resident Evil 2 remake. It was nice to see them kind of build that out here.
yeah. Um all right. So we're actually going a lot longer than I expected. Let's get to the castle, because I think the castle is really interesting. Uh and I don't think the island will actually take us that long to talk about. Maybe it will, I don't know. But the castle was like, it almost felt like we were entering a different game, or like a sequel to the first game or the first section, right? And like, so Ramon is like this creepy, like almost he's I know isn't he supposed to be like a kid in the first one, or like the
No,
creepy?
he's still old in the first
No,
one.
no, he is
He
young in
looked.
the first one. He says something to Leon. I've played that game way too many times, but he says something to Leon like, "You may not believe it, but I'm only 25 years old."
Mm.
It's one of his lines in a cutscene in that. I don't know what's going on with Ramon.
Yeah.
But man, he's a creepy character. You want to talk about the creepy characters in this game? He's a creepy one.
Little zombie
He
Uh,
went.
Napoleon.
Yeah, he went
Yeah.
from little
yeah.
Napoleon to freaky Bilbo Boggins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And think
Yes,
about the
precisely.
castle.
Hmm.
The castle is such a like I don't know hours wise when you divide. I felt like the castle felt like the longest part, but not in a bad way, because it
Hmm.
the chapters broke it out really well, and there's so many like different almost like biomes within the castle. You've got the underground area. You've got the area
Hmm.
when you start dealing with the freaking bugs, the Novistadors that I hate so
Oh yeah, the
much.
bugs. I
Hmm.
forgot about the bugs
So
are
Yeah, and the
and then
hedge maze too.
yes, the hedge maze, and then again, Ashley's part where you're going through the library. So there,
Mhm.
the fact that the castle just it was a big meaty part of the game, lots of different areas. So I felt that it they, the developers made great use of the environment.
Yeah, most
yeah,
dynamic setting for sure.
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, I actually, speaking of Ramon, I actually really like I really like the Ramon boss fight as well. Um, very like, I wasn't expecting him to like take off and like almost fly. I think he's actually crawling, but it feels like he's just flying around this room like
Yeah.
crazy.
He latches on with his like arm tentacle
Thing.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
That's the
Mhm.
fight where I tried throwing that dang golden chicken egg, but I kept missing. Like, I was always, like, very close, then he'd move. So I'm like, "Fine,
Yeah.
I actually decided to reload the game. I wanted to see what would happen. I missed again. So after missing twice, I'm like, "Whatever, I'll just keep fighting."
Yeah,
Yeah.
isn't it like an instant kill or something on him?
You need 2 eggs to kill him.
Oh,
One
okay.
stuns him, and then one kills him.
I never even
Oh.
tried it. I hit his portrait with the egg
Yep,
Mhm.
same.
in the
I did the
like
mission.
any good anti-monarchist, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, no, I never was able to sling one at the man himself.
Hmm. I
That
didn't. I
boss
didn't
fight's a
even know
huge
that.
improvement on the original. The original Ramon boss fight, he's just kind of a wall. Like
He's a
he's almost
flower
like
on
a
the wall.
sentient.
Like
Yes,
it's
exactly, a
Mhm.
flower on the wall. This is
Ooh.
so much better.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I did not like it
Mhm.
because of his stupid one-hit kill that he was very frequent in using.
Mm.
If he got
Yeah, they
close
could
to
have toned
you,
that down.
you had to get the hell out of there, otherwise he was going to bite you and swallow you.
Mhm.
And I
Yeah.
hated that.
Yeah. I mean, the yeah, I guess like I don't know, maybe it's because I played it maybe because I played it on the easiest difficulty because I just wanted to get through it. Uh by the way, I didn't play it on the easiest difficulty because I thought the game was hard. I played it because of time and I wanted to make sure I got through it because Thursday before because we were
Sure.
Mhm.
well,
Mhm.
we were originally supposed to record this on Friday and it's now Monday, so Thursday night I stayed up way late to try to finish it before we recorded and well yeah anyways I didn't feel like I had a lot of trouble with the Ramon fight like really at all and so that's probably on me though. I like to play games that are easy or like put it on easy because that's me.
Oh, he's
Yeah,
also
I'm
one of my
curious
favorite.
about.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I'm just curious about what role the adaptive difficulty must play in this, because the original was very famous for having a difficulty that fluctuated based on the player's actions. And with what you're saying, sometimes I had a hard time with this boss fight, and sometimes I didn't. And
Hmm.
so I'm wondering if it scales up or down based on your behavior elsewhere. Impossible to say.
Yeah, I don't really know. I think I mean I did still die quite a few times, like especially against the giants, which we never really talked about.
Right, right.
The giant fights,
Mhm.
like just because I didn't really understand how to take them down with a handgun and a shotgun,
Mhm.
uh, mostly, and especially in like the mining kind of quarry part where like the dog ends up coming back and saving you when you, uh, you know, I thought, well, maybe if I go up higher, I can take them out, or, and then you kind of just figure it out as you go. But I could not figure it out for the longest time, and by
Mhm.
longest time, I probably mean like probably a half hour of trying to new strategies and different strategies. But yeah, and then like you end up fighting two of them with Louise later in the basement of the castle,
Mhm.
and putting them in that big lava jar that's just randomly down there.
That rocks.
Or not,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you wanted to be cool and get that special little, well, it was an achievement back in the day,
I
but
got an
now it's
achievement for
just
it.
Yeah, yeah, it's an in-game achievement now.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
yeah, it's in game achievement. It's not like before it was an actual like
Oh,
trophy
sorry.
achievement.
Gotcha.
Oh, okay.
GameCube
If
didn't
you were to
have
kill it.
trophies or achievements.
Thanks,
Pat,
Nintendo.
When they brought it forward to the systems that
I
did
know.
have trophy
Yeah,
I know.
like
systems.
PS4 and all. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm being a jerk. That's
You
all.
you know Nintendo still needs to get on that.
Yeah.
It's just so
So
much fun to drop them into the lava, though. Like,
Mm.
I
yeah,
wish the achievement
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for not doing the cool part.
yeah. I mean, it is fun. Also, like Louise starts becoming like a more likable character in this
Hmm.
kind of sequence. Like you start finding out more about him, obviously. Like and then, uh, oh, the minecart part. Like you start finding out more about Louise, and then you go through the mine carts, and like this is ridiculous. There's some Donkey Kong Country ass jumps in here, like
It's
just
incredible.
straight
Yeah,
up
that's where I
It's
just
just
couldn't
parts of
take it
Donkey Kong. Yeah.
seriously. Like, I saw the chainsaw guy trying to come at me. I'm like, really, bro?
Yeah, I'm like, what good are you doing with a chainsaw? Are you gonna throw it at me? Like, what are you? what
Was he
use is
already down
this?
here? Does he just go back and forth in a minecart all day as his job?
Yeah. Does
You
he?
know, they were all just waiting for that moment. Okay, boys, they're gonna use the mine carts.
It's
This is
our
what
time
we're
to
Right.
ready for.
shine.
Yeah.
Right. And it's
We
like, oh, yeah.
choreographed this.
No, you
We
know what
know
he does?
exactly when to push.
He's in charge of making sure the minecarts can make those lengthy jumps, and that's why the
Mhm.
chainsaw is there, so he can cut little sections out to make sure like it's
Yeah.
just even, you know?
Yeah, it's like they snugged a Disneyland ride right here into the middle of a haunted castle.
Yeah. Who knew? Haunted
Hmm.
Mansion takes on a new meaning.
Hmm.
But yeah, I really enjoyed that part. I really I thought it was a great change of pace, especially because like Louise is kind of making fun of you at the beginning when you're he makes you push the cart, and
Hmm.
I don't know, Louise at this point kind of became likable, which is sad because he ends up, you know, finding his end soon. And
Yeah.
that was a pretty heartfelt part too, where like you are kind of fighting Krauser for the first time, and obviously, you know, he throws the knife and kind of takes Louise down, and then after you fight Krauser, Louise kind of crawls over and takes one last smoke, and
Classic.
Hmm.
classic.
Yeah,
I
rather
kind of
than
felt
being.
I felt
Ra-
I,
oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say I felt bad for him, you know.
Hmm.
That's another character
It's
development thing. Go
Yeah.
ahead, Pat.
Yeah, he was doing his
it's a
best.
lot like it's a death that he was more worthy of getting than the one
Hmm.
that they gave him in the original, where he
Mm.
basically got impaled by Sadler's barbed penis.
Hmm.
Mm,
Very
yeah.
Mm.
silly. It also
Hmm.
allows Sadler to not turn up until later, which is pretty cool. We Sadler just exists on the periphery as this spooky dreamlike figure in the remake, whereas in the original he's bopping around the castle stabbing Luis and so forth.
Oh
Hmm.
yeah, you're
Hmm.
right.
Hmm.
Because every once in a while, like if Leon is waking up from something, he'll kind of hear Sadler's voice, and it's
Hmm.
very creepy.
Yeah,
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
his like inexplicable American accent.
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, Sadler's voice is kind of a minor misstep in this for me, but you know it's a very minor misstep. He's still a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, when they
I
first take
actually
his hood off, whew, that thing creeped me out.
Hmm.
It's like
I actually
right there. Yeah.
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 Yeah. I actually think out of the three kind of main villains, and I mean, does anybody have anything else to say about the castle before we move on? I mean, playing as Ashley was really scary because you literally can't defend yourself. Uh,
Yeah, I would like to
trying to
add
solve
to
that
that.
puzzle.
It's not just like being defenseless, obviously that's a big part of it, but a lot of strictly horror games is built along the premise where you can't defend yourself.
Hmm.
But it's more like
Mhm,
everything is freaking dark. You have this one lantern where you can like freeze the oh, hold on, I wrote down the name of the armaduras. But it's the fact that these armor, like when something stalks you, that's what terrifies me. So when there's
Hmm.
armaduras stalking you, that's
mhm,
what. And it's like dark everywhere. And I don't know if any of you guys went back to defeat like the golden armadura as Leon, like
Hmm.
that. Like it
Very
was
hard.
less scary when I'm like overpowered and superhero, but I don't know. It's just the darkness, the whole library and everything, and the
Hmm.
I forget what Sanctorium. I forget, but I oh gosh, that was actually probably one of the scariest parts of the game for me. That section, in addition to dealing anything with the regenerators slash Iron
Hmm.
Maidens, I hate
mhm,
those.
Yeah.
No, I will say A- Ashley's voice actress did a great job during those
Hmm.
scenes. Like you got her fear, you got her anxiety during it. You got some good laughs when she's like, "This really, really sucks."
Yeah,
yeah,
she's a lot of fun.
I said no more nights.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
I actually have to say that the voice acting in this game was actually pretty good. I know a lot of people found Ada pretty stiff and weird, but I actually liked her voice acting.
Oh,
I did too.
can I say something about that as the token half Asian person in the boss
Hmm.
rush community? So I looked at who the original voice actress was for let's see, Ada Wong, and who it is now. Not that it matters, but it looks like the original person who voiced Ada Wong was just like a Caucasian person,
She
which
was.
I don't judge it, but whatever. And then this person was an actual Asian person, and everyone got on this woman's ass about it, which again,
And she quit Instagram because of it because people were coming after her.
so it made my blood boil twice over. One, because just people are mean spirited anyway, and then two, like we actually had real Asian representation finally, and you really just had a shit on her like that. Oh, that mm, makes me
Because
Yeah, I
mad.
they
agree.
want
I
their
don't think
Ada
that's a
sexy.
coincidence. Yeah.
That's what the fanboys want.
Well, they're
And when she
racist.
didn't have that much
Yeah.
sexiness in her voice,
I actually liked Lily Gao a lot, so not that Lily
Mhm.
Gao would ever listen to this, but if you are, I love you.
We
Um,
should get her on. We should
yeah,
have her on the show.
She was in the
well, we
Welcome to Raccoon City movie as Ada too. She's noteworthy for being the only actor, I think, to portray a character in the Resident Evil series in a live action movie and a game, which is pretty cool too.
that
Oh, that's
is
cool.
awesome. I'm gonna reach out.
Yeah.
But and one more fun fact, but this is about Ashley's character, and I think it's the original voice actress, Carolyn Lawrence as Ashley Graham. She voices Sandy Cheeks in SpongeBob.
That's funny.
That's incredible.
Try to take that out of your brain moving forward.
I had
Sorry.
no idea.
Yep. Anyway,
I will
sorry.
still have to go with Courtney Taylor, but just because I met her, so
Oh yeah, yeah.
that
Yeah.
she'll be my Ada.
Couple of other things that I want to point out. The castle is more about the entities. The Garadors were terrifying, but
Yes.
when the one where there's two in the room, I did my best to let them take out all the guards and the zealots. I hate the summoner. He's the red priest guy that summons the Plagos. That was tough.
Yeah, what a dick.
Yeah.
Did you guys like the representation of Ramon's statue in this one, or would you have preferred the original?
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
We almost forgot about that. In the original, you are chased by a giant statue of Ramon, like as it comes barreling through castle walls and destroying the bridge to the clock tower. And this one, it's in the clock tower with the rotating head that breathes fire.
Ramon's giant statue is the fulcrum on which Resident Evil's horror to silliness pivot rests. And
Mm-hmm.
so I feel like the moment where that big Robo Napoleon starts chasing you in the original game is kind of the moment where Resident Evil becomes silly and remains silly for another decade. And I loved it. I love that goofy statue in the original. Um, Ultimately, I think the way that they still integrated it in the remake without, having it be a QTE or some kind of silly event, I think it works a little bit better as a tonally consistent element in the remake.
Mm.
I'm just glad they gave him the hat
Yes.
for the statue.
Oh, that's
I
funny.
didn't play the original, but I did like my experience, my individual experience going around it, just because I get to think like tactically, like the
Yeah.
ball that would roll down the stairs, I would just let it mow over people. So, but I never had the joyous experience of being chased by a statue, so I guess I can't make the comparison. But
A
um,
statue that looked like Napoleon.
yeah, but I
Dumbest
didn't
thing
mind
in the
that.
world.
Hmm.
Yeah, I
Uh,
you know, I think that was part and parcel with improving the pace of the remake. They took out a lot from the original in the castle and island parts that were just more of the same, and
Mm.
it makes the remake just go by a lot faster, which I think is to its
Mhm.
credit.
all right. So let's hit the island real quick. This is kind of where like obviously the climax of the whole game comes together. I thought the whole Ashley being controlled by Sadler scene was really cool.
Mhm.
Uh and like she fights it and shoots his two guards, which by the way, the guards in the white outfits are super cool looking.
Yeah,
They're they're really like striking to look at.
yeah, they weren't in
Uh
the original, and they never turn up during gameplay. They're just cool cutscene creepy guys.
which is awesome. I
Mhm.
I like when when they do stuff like that. Just have characters that they don't do anything except they're there to look cool. And uh, I mean, I'm
You
assuming
really
they're
liked
like,
the Emperor's bodyguards in Star Wars, didn't you? The red
yeah,
ones that just
they
stand and
were
guard the elevator.
Yeah, well, they're in the Mandalorian. Well, a version of them are in the Mandalorian, and they fight the Mandalorians in the this season of the show, which is super cool.
Hmm.
Neat.
Uh, but yeah, I like that scene. I like how they're kind of experiencing the effects together, and they're kind of learning how to protect each other from the effects of the plaga, and like this is when Sadler kind of becomes super scary, right? Like
Hmm.
he's manipulating and able to control things with his mind, and his stick is super scary. And then when he removes his hood, you see like the I don't know if he's just wearing too much hair gel with his hair slicked back, or if
No,
like there's actually like
that's
his
a
skull
plagas
coming
on
out.
his head.
Yeah. So I mean that's like
Pretty
kind of
dirty.
yeah, it's
Get that
good
look out
stuff, as
there.
they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh so it, it's the island is really cool. I like the whole kind of we got to get to the to the top of the mountain type thing,
Hmm.
and like the whole oil rig stuff, and like just the whole kind of how the island section kind of flows. It's super satisfying. I like when the helicopter comes in to try to save you, and like the bugs come in and kind of take it down. Bye, Mike. I said like as you saw the helicopter going like this, I just kind of like, bye, Mike.
What is it with like
Helicopter Mike.
helicopters meeting a terrible fate in Resident Evil? Because I don't think that's the first time.
It's a
No,
trope
it's
again.
it's like
Yeah.
it's on your Resident Evil bingo card. Like if there's
Hmm.
a helicopter that appears, it will be going down.
Yep.
Yes.
I like that in this one, the Novistadors, the bugs get it, as
Hmm.
opposed to the original, it just gets shot down by a rocket launcher. And you think, well, why didn't the other 24 guys with rocket launchers get it?
Yeah.
It carved a swath through. Whereas in this one, it makes a little bit more sense because the bugs pop up.
Yeah. And then obviously you get the Krauser fight, which this is where Krauser kind of takes on his quote unquote final form. He kind of sucks. I didn't like this fight really at all. I had a really hard time with this fight for some reason. I don't know why exactly I had a hard time. I just felt like I wasn't evading fast enough. Also, it was like super late, and I was like, I want to go to bed so bad. Uh,
But the satisfaction where you parry his thing 5 times.
Feels great.
it's
Oh.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was an interesting fight. I like the whole my arm's gonna turn into this like Soul Calibur nightmare sword
Yeah,
arm.
big Soul Calibur energy on Krauser.
Yeah,
You're right.
Hey, can
yeah. I was like,
someone
oh
help me understand? Because I was probably too busy trying not to not die. Krauser's connection, all this. Because I also know that they, in the remake, they made the plot make more sense with Krauser, and I know
Hmm.
he was the one that ultimately helped bring the president's daughter to Sadler. But like, why is he just obsessed with power? Because all I heard was power, and I don't know.
The thought was that it was because he was, I guess, soured towards the government for having his whole platoon be essentially killed due to the government not like giving a helicopter and trying to pull them out of enemy
Yeah,
territory.
in
Uh,
Operation Javier in South America.
Mm,
hmm But I think it was a mixture of that, and then when he got the Las Plagas, it just kind of more corrupted him from changing his original "I want to take down America" to "Hey, I have power now. I could just be alpha."
okay,
hmm,
Yeah. He doesn't like you said, Patrick. He was underserved by his government, and then that was kind of his ethos. And so once that was gone, he needed some kind of barometer of self worth, and
mm,
becoming stronger was his barometer of self worth. So
okay,
the Plagas ended up being a means to an end for that.
gotcha.
Not a super compelling motivation, but more than the no motivation that was present in the original.
Makes sense. Okay.
It was so much cooler that it was an actual boss fight this time and not just a series of quick time events
Hmm.
that the
Oh,
last one
that used to
was.
be QTEs only?
That was like
hmm.
an entire QTE, and if you died, you had to do the whole damn string over again.
Well,
No
there were
prob
two in the original. There were the two fights with Krauser, which still persist in the new one. There's the earlier Krauser fight where it's just kind of a straight up knife battle,
I like
and
that one.
that's a million times better in the remake because in the
Yeah.
original it's like you said, Patrick, it's just a bunch of QTEs. The sequel, the Krauser fight on the island in the remake, I found to be pretty similar to the original. It's just it gives you a little bit more on-screen prompts to know what to do. So I found him more readable in the remake.
Mm.
Plus, he sets an auto self-destruct thing in the original, and I have died after the Krauser boss fight just because of his silly self-destruct sequence. So I like that they cut that right out.
Made him
Yeah.
go back to being slightly more human
Mhm.
after his death.
Much cooler.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah.
Oh, can we
So
also talk about running into the regenerator for the first time?
yeah.
Just how perfect that was. You open the door and it's right there.
Incredible.
Nope.
Pass.
Yeah, those guys are
with
so
its
scary.
grin and just like the flabbiness and just like what the
Yeah.
They'll slither across the floor at you.
Ugh.
Ooh.
every time you knocked it down, just
Yeah.
like fish jumps you.
I thought it
Spooky,
was just
spooky.
a defunct animation. I'm like, oh, look at him go! Ah, I'm dead.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah, that was super fun.
And
Pass
because you didn't have
again.
the heat source yet, you just had to
Mm.
run, and then they throw a second one at you. And
Hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
gee,
Mm.
that's classic for
Then they
me.
turn into Iron Maidens. They, explode
Hmm.
out at you. Oof. Chilling.
Gross. So let's kind of anybody want to talk about anything before the final boss fight? Just
I like that they went more into the Lost Plagas itself, like
Hmm.
just what it is, and then seeing the giant amber with like hundreds of the bugs embedded in it. It's like, ooh,
oh yeah.
this is like it. I felt that this remake gave the threat more seriousness
Yeah, more
Hmm.
than the
credibility for
original
sure.
did.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, Sadler was far more powerful in this version, just with the fact that he could control the minds and knowing that if he got these bugs into the people that he wanted to,
Hmm.
he'd have the world right in his hand.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I really enjoyed the like the amber stuff. I really enjoyed like the especially the scene where Leon and Ashley kind of cure each other, I guess. I think that scene
Hmm.
is very a very fitting kind of, I don't want to say end to their kind of struggle together, but I really enjoyed them kind of bantering back and forth, and Ashley's still really pulling hard for Leon, like we work well together, right? Like, I was like, oh my gosh, just when they cut to black, they should have just boned and got it over with. Like, geez, this is ridiculous. This is just do it already.
I do like
Uh,
how, without her, like he would have been screwed. Like she still ended
Yes.
up helping him out too. So,
hmm yeah,
Yeah, I think that's a critical improvement to the story
Hmm.
of this. That she has a lot more agency in the game in general,
mhm.
but she saves Leon, as much as
Yep.
hmm
Leon saves her. I think that's a really important pivot.
yeah,
Yeah, no,
uh,
Ashley was such a one-dimensional character in the original that it's like Leon definitely had no like feelings for her whatsoever, to the point
hmm
where she's like, "Hey, we could like go somewhere," at the end, and Leon just flat out tells her no. That I mean, that was a great scene, and it's cute how they change it up in this one. It's like, "Hey, you could become part of my private detail." Oh,
yeah,
you already proven you don't need me.
Hmm.
mm,
It's like,
Yeah, it's nice with the bit where they remove the Plagas as well. That was almost an afterthought in the original game. They were both infected with Plagas early on in the original Resident Evil 4, and then it very barely turns up until the end, where Sadler controls them momentarily, and then there's this threat that when they'll have it removed, that it could be perilous to their health. But then they just do it in 2 seconds, and there's no real risk at all. It kind of happens off screen. So they really leaned into that in the remake, I think, to the to the to improve the emotional bits of the game.
mm-hmm.
hmm yeah. and then we kind of get to the final boss fight with Sadler, which is where I actually started using like the the uh, the machine gun, like
Hmm.
the assault rifle kind of weapon.
Any
Just
true Resident Evil player will save their best weapon to the boss fight. The final boss is when they'll, like, if you get a Magnum, you don't touch that Magnum till you get to the final boss fight, and then you use all the ammo on that. That is how a Resident Evil
yeah,
game should be played.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then Ada tosses you. First of all, Ada's kind of like just strung up, like really just hung up there, and then she like leaves when you say she just leaves. What are you doing?
Ada's out.
Oh,
Ada's
She
getting
man.
out of
does what
here.
she does best.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, geez. And then, but she does throw you a rocket launcher though. So,
Hmm. Classic
uh,
Ada.
yeah, I I kind of felt like the final boss fight was a little. It wasn't as engaging as kind of the first two major boss fights, right? Like it just kind of like shoot the ball where his skeleton clearly is, and then evade his tentacle arms, dodge, shoot the ball. Like it was a. I don't know. It didn't feel like an afterthought. It just didn't feel like it as fleshed out as the rest of them.
It wasn't my favorite boss fight, but definitely my Zelda instincts kicked in because if you see an eyeball, you shoot that eyeball. Because that's
Hmm.
essentially
Hmm.
what it is. There are eyeballs on Sadler, and you have like a almost like a circular arena where you just literally maneuver around until you start smashing parts of it off.
Hmm.
Sometimes you have to hit a button and cross a bridge to get to the other side. So I was constantly
Hmm.
moving, which I found that part engaging and very dynamic, but I did struggle a little bit here. I forgot, didn't he summons Novistadors, right? I think.
He does. Yeah, it's a huge hassle. But
Yes.
the one bonus is that they drop ammo because I was running out of ammo on this fight, so
Yes.
that
Yep.
was nice.
Hmm.
Can
Really hard
save
to hit
all
those
my
eyes.
Magnum
Thank
Yeah,
ammo.
you.
yeah, yeah. The For me, like the whole like shooting part of the game was kind of okay. I think this game is definitely made to be slow and methodical and not running
Mhm.
and using an assault rifle type weapon, right? Like when you start using those automatic weapons, they just kind of feel like this weapon was not made for this game. Where did you get this from? but uh, but yeah, and then they're gonna jet ski across the one of the many oceans that this world has back to
Mhm.
America, and save the day on a jet ski.
I
You
can't
know,
believe they kept the jet ski escape in this game. I thought if they were going to cut anything from this, I thought they were going to cut the jet ski escape because that's the most mid 2000s game element in this. But no, it's there.
it's awesome though. Like that part was so cool. Like
It's
it was so
delightful. Yeah.
dumb. And like even like going through the tunnel on the jet ski, like even the gates, half of the gates were shut, so you had to pick a
Mhm.
side. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so like I don't know, man. It was really funny to play. I was kind of laughing the whole time, and you had to dodge the boxes
Mm.
that were in the water too, like
Mm.
Mhm.
or you'll take damage. So it was so funny,
And you only
man.
hit like 6 to 10 ramps. So you did that a couple times.
Yeah,
It really
yeah,
feels like somebody played Wave Race and said, "Can we put that in too? Like, can we
yeah.
get a little Wave Race in this
I
Resident
know. I
Evil?"
was hoping, like, why can't Leon do a handstand? I did that in Wave
Hmm.
Race 64. Come on, man.
Hmm.
Hmm. Get with the times, Leon.
Shinji Mikami is a big fan of Wave Race Blue Storm on the GameCube. He's like, let's put that in there. Can we put that in there? Let's put that in there.
I want to go back to Sadler for a moment because one thing that kind of like made me raise an eyebrow with the whole Sadler fight is when you got to meet Sadler for the first time, you realized he had this incredible regenerating ability. Like you could shoot him in the eyeball, he'll just make a new eyeball.
Mm.
So, what was it? He like was super huge by the end of it with the
Yeah.
whole like vine tentacles and the amber thing in the middle. What was it about one rocket launcher that completely disintegrated every single one of his cells? Like he should have been able to shrug that off.
Yeah,
It's a good
but
point.
it's a video game.
They completely forgot
He hit
that
his
he
weak
had the
point, you see.
ability to regenerate.
Because video
Okay, you know what?
games.
maybe it's now that I think about it, maybe it's based off of the regenerator where they hit his actual Plagas, killed that, and maybe
Oh,
that killed it, just like it would kill a regenerator.
I'd buy
Maybe.
it.
Okay,
Okay.
you know what? I'm glad we talked about this.
Headcanon.
Yes.
Perfect. Now I can sleep at night. Thank you.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Uh, Man. So was there anything we didn't get to that we want to hit on before we get out of here? I mean, the more I played this game, the more I grew to understand why people absolutely love this game. Uh,
How how about the fact they put Whisker in it?
yeah, at the very end. Yeah, I guess we
Hmm
could probably talk about
Yeah.
that Ada was kind
Like
of
he
working for
wasn't a
Wesker.
voice; he actually was in the game.
Yeah, glasses and all.
Yeah.
Hmm And
Yeah.
it's like, well, there's a confirmation that they're going to make a 5. They freaking got him a voice actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that was a little bit of a sour note to me. I like that the original was a little bit more of a standalone adventure as opposed to being tied into the all that Wesker shenanigans.
Hmm.
But
Hmm
I don't know. On a different day, I might see it differently. It's cool to have him there, I guess too.
So yeah, on that note, the is that Ada DLC like real? Do you think that's coming? Is it coming?
It has to.
Yeah,
I
I
hope
would.
so.
I would actually like to do a mini video game book club on that with this same group once that comes out and people play it, because I think it would be a cool continuation of this
Oh, the
conversation.
book club addendum.
Mm.
Ooh, bonus chapter,
Yeah, exactly.
epilogue. I don't know.
Epilogue. Yeah, epilogue.
Yeah, you guys are smarter than I am at that. So, uh,
One last thing I just wanted to mention because we didn't really talk about it, and this is just a silly personal thing. You know what I ended up really liking about this game was the treasures. I really got into
Hmm.
finding all the treasures, and I'm like, no, 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 I got to put gems in it first. I'm not selling it until I get all the gems in it. Normally, I'm not really big on like collecting everything. I mean, part of it's because I need money to upgrade, but
Yeah.
I really tried to get everything that I could, and the ability to trade. What particular kind of gems, Chris or Pat or
The
whoever?
spindles,
The
Sapphire. Oh,
spinels, yeah,
Spinels.
the
Yeah,
spinels.
Spinels.
to
Yeah.
get the maps to make sure I covered everything.
Hmm.
Oh, chef's kiss. I loved it.
Yeah.
Again, check out the what I call it, the
That
that
cartoon.
cartoon that I was
Yeah.
talking about.
Oh, mhm.
Check that animation out because it hits all these wonderful tropes, especially like that one about how you trade junk in, he gives you those gems, you give him the gems, he gives you a ticket, you give him the ticket, he gives you you give him a ticket and a gun, he gives you the gun with the
Of
power.
Hmm.
course.
It's like it's just hilarious. I
aw,
say check it out.
Yeah, I like the treasures a lot as well. They add to the replayability. You know,
Hmm.
you're going through it a second time, and it gives you this extra goal of trying to hit every treasure in a chapter.
Yeah.
You know, that's one of
Hmm
the in-game achievements, and so it makes you play the game differently. It makes you see areas you wouldn't have seen before. It just adds a fun little wrinkle, I think, that increases its dynamism.
yeah. I definitely like. At first, I started out. I was like looking for the treasures, and the blue medallions were like really fun to search for, and
Hmm.
uh, that kind of stuff. But I kind of stopped looking for stuff just because like on the on the easiest difficulty, you get like quadruple the amount of money from than the
Yeah.
other modes. So I'm just like, well, if I'm just finding money, I'm not gonna like just to kind of get through it. And I kind of want to go through it at a slower pace now to try to like take more of it in, you know.
Hmm.
Uh, so, but that's it. That's gonna wrap our discussion on Resident Evil 4 for this video game book club. Uh, I think this game, I thought it was great. I'm kind of shocked at how much I liked it, especially based off the first few hours I was playing it. I was A, dreading it, and B, kind of thought the opening hours are kind of slow. And, uh, but, like I said earlier, once you kind of get deeper into the game, it gets more exciting and
Hmm.
action packed and more ridiculous as you keep going. And, uh, yeah, great experience. We'll have to do it again sometime when, you know, no new games are coming out, or we decide to do another one, or maybe we'll start doing Patreon polls for this show
Mm.
after
Oh, there
Zelda
you
though,
go.
because we got to do Zelda.
Hmm.
So Chris, thank you for joining us tonight. It was great having you on. Your insight and your knowledge of this game was really, I think, impacted the show, this episode a lot more than I think we anticipated. So thank you for your time and you showing up. We want to tell everybody where they can find you before we get out of here.
Absolutely, yeah, and thank you so much for having me. This was a real treat to get to talk about this amazing game with three wonderful people.
Yay.
So listeners can find my work over on franchisefestivalpodcast.com or by searching Franchise Festival on their preferred podcast app. We should be on all of them.
Yeah, I recommend listening to that show. It's very good. I'm glad that you could be on. This was a real treat for us as well. Pat, Stephanie, thank you for your time as well.
My pleasure. I always enjoy talking about video games.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what game.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't? You know? Who doesn't? I want to thank all of you out there for watching and or listening. Remember, you can get these video game book clubs once a month. You can get them 2 weeks early if you are a patron of the Boss Rush Network for just $1 a month. You can get this and other shows early. It's a big deal, guys. It's a big deal.
Wicked
We're kind
big
of a
deal.
big deal.
It's huge.
You can always watch these episodes on YouTube as well. You can subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Boss Rush Network, or go to bossrush.net. I want to thank everybody for watching and or listening. And until next time, we love you. Goodbye.
Off to play bingo.
Bye.
The Boss Rush Podcast is a product of Boss Rush Media, LLC, and is recorded from our headquarters in Akron, Ohio. This show is produced, written, and directed by me, Corey Deering. My co-hosts are Stephanie Klimov, LaRon Dawkins, and Edward Barnell. You can find Stephanie at Klimov_author on Twitter and Instagram, as well as on the EXPcast. You can find LaRon at Exodus803 on Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, and YouTube, and also on Crossroads, the video game podcast. You can find Edward at ThatRetroCode on Twitter and Instagram, as well as hosting Nintendo Powwow. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at IamCoreyInHD and find me hosting Tower Casuals, the Destiny podcast, and co-hosting Nintendo Powwow. Find the Boss Rush Podcast on all social media platforms at Boss Rush Podcast. You can also follow Boss Rush Media and Boss Rush Network on all major social media platforms. Join the Boss Rush Network Discord and Facebook groups to interact with other friends and fans. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.